as always, I rely on Gail's love and support and that of our two lovely daughters. So I want to thank Ayla and Ariana for their help as well. And just in case anybody who's watching throughout the country, yes, they're both available. No. Only kidding. Ariana definitely is not available, but Ayla is. This is Ariana, and this is Ayla. Well, I can see I'm going to get in trouble when I get home.
You know, Massachusetts is an old state. Massachusetts has been a state since 1788. Massachusetts is so old, it's not even a state. It's a commonwealth. When the Pilgrims landed in America, they landed at Plymouth Rock in Massachusetts. Massachusetts has the world's oldest functioning written constitution. That's Massachusetts. It's old. By the time we got around to forming a Congress in this country and sending people to it, Massachusetts had a delegation of 10 members, 8 in the House and 2, of course, in the Senate. In the 223 years that Massachusetts has existed as a state, Commonwealth, Massachusetts has sent 465 people to Congress, I think. That's what I was able to figure out today. Of those 465 people, a grand total of 4 of them have been women. That's it. 4 women in the entire history of Massachusetts sent to Congress. 461 men, 4 women. In the special election to replace Democratic Senator Ted Kennedy, Democrats did choose a woman in 2010, Martha Coakley, as their nominee. But as you saw, and to the great momentary embarrassment of his daughters, Scott Brown did end up winning that night. Since Scott Brown was elected to the United States Senate, he has mostly followed the wise counsel that lots of new senators get, which is to keep your head down, try not to make too much noise or too much news. We've been asking for interviews with Senator Brown for more than a year here at this show, and we frankly have not gotten anywhere with those requests. But it's not just us, though. The most press that Senator Brown has done in the time that he's been a senator has been to promote his glossy autobiography. That's been the most of the press that he's done. When he has been forced to weigh in on national political issues, it has sometimes been a little weird. In the sense that it has been hard to follow his position sometimes. He doesn't always seem to have a great grasp of either the policy issues that he is talking about, or in some cases, which is the weird part of it, he does not seem to have a good grasp of what his own position is on those issues. Take, for example, the Paul Ryan Republican Kill Medicare budget. When the Paul Ryan budget was heading toward a vote in the Senate in May, Senator Brown told an audience in Massachusetts, quote, "The leaders will bring forward Paul Ryan's budget, and I will vote for it. I will vote for it." That's what he said. A few days after saying that, staffers for Senator Brown explained that that statement, "I will vote for it," was not in fact a statement about how the senator would vote on that legislation. It was just a statement that he would vote on it. He was talking about having the opportunity to vote on that bill, even though what he explicitly said was, "I will vote for it." Ultimately, after saying yes, he wanted to vote for the Paul Ryan plan to kill Medicare, and then after that, his staffers saying he really had no idea whether or not he wanted to vote to kill Medicare, Scott Brown eventually settled on no, as a no vote on that legislation. So it was yes, and then it was I have no idea, ignore what I said, and then it was no, all in the span of 10 days. That's been sort of what it's like talking to Scott Brown about national issues when he is willing to talk about them, even though mostly he's just not willing to talk. The single most distinguishing factor, though, about Scott Brown's tenure in the Senate thus far has been even more unexpected than that. It was not seen as a big Massachusetts issue necessarily. It was certainly not what he campaigned on. It was not what I think most people either who supported him or who did not support him expected of him when he went to the Senate. But in the 19 months that he has been in Washington, Scott Brown has emerged as arguably the most Wall Street of all 100 U.S. senators. And I don't mean that in a stylistic way or even a critical way. I just mean it in terms of the math. Out of all 100 U.S. senators, Scott Brown ranks #1 right now in campaign contributors from hedge funds. Scott Brown is also the senator who has received the most campaign money from the venture capital industry. Scott Brown is #2 among all U.S. senators in receiving money from private equity and investment firms. He's also #2 in money from the securities and investment industry. Look at his top campaign contributors right now. Fidelity, that's listed as FMR Corp. Goldman Sachs, Mass Mutual Life Insurance, Bank of New York Mellon. Scott Brown has taken in so much money from Wall Street in the short time that he has been in Washington that Forbes magazine last year put him under the headline, Wall Street's Favorite Congressman. And you know, we maybe should have seen this coming. Maybe Wall Street and Scott Brown knew something that nobody else did before he was elected. In the 6 days before his special election victory last year, Scott Brown, in 6 days, took in nearly $500,000 from the financial industry. The return on Wall Street's investment, the payoff they have gotten on what they have spent on Scott Brown, is the kind of margin that makes Wall Street guys drool onto their tasseled loafers. As the Wall Street reform bill was being crafted in the Senate, it was Scott Brown who saved Wall Street firms $19 billion that they would have otherwise paid back to the taxpayers. He stripped out a fee that was included in that bill that was meant to have the guys who broke the financial system pay to fix it so that taxpayers didn't have to bear the whole burden. Wall Street's investment in Scott Brown really paid off. I mean, think about that. $19 billion they didn't have to pay because of him specifically. And even though Scott Brown is not facing re-election until 2012, the gratitude of Wall Street for what the Bank of Scott Brown has done for them in the U.S. Senate is a major reason why he is sitting right now on nearly $10 million in campaign contributions already. Even now, many quarters out from this election in 2012, his latest fundraising figures show that he is raising hundreds of thousands of dollars from the financial industry every quarter now, even before he has technically started running for re-election. If you want to know why the stock market has been all over the place recently, everybody's been sort of trying to peg things going on in American politics to what's going on with these giant swings in the stock market right now. People trying to make those connections, I think, are doing so at their own peril. The real reason the stock market has been swinging wildly and going nuts is actually because of what's been going on in Europe. Europe right now is starting to look a lot like how the United States looked 3 years ago at this time. At this time, exactly 3 years ago, the U.S. financial system was beginning to collapse. At the end of the George W. Bush administration. That is what caused the Great Recession here. I mean, we had the very controversial bank bailout to stop us from going into an immediate Great Depression at that time. But the damage done to us by the Wall Street collapse, by the collapse of the financial system of Wall Street firms, is what put us into the mess that we are still unable to get out of. The determinative thing in American life and American politics that is clouding out everything else going on, all other political activity, frankly, all other factors, is this economy, right? This economy that is still not recovered from the Wall Street collapse. The Wall Street collapse that Wall Street brought on itself by its own behavior and that we are all still paying for. And so this is an open question. I think this is an open question. I do not know the answer. Does an electorate angry about the economy, chiefly motivated by anxiety about the economy and wanting the economy to get better, does that electorate want Wall Street's favorite to be their senator? Is anger about what happened to the economy at all directed toward Wall Street, which is where this problem came from? Or have Republicans succeeded in redirecting anger about the economy onto Washington? And specifically onto Democrats and onto the Obama administration that has tried to drag us out of the pit that Wall Street threw us in, with frankly not enough success to make anybody feel good about it. The person who led the charge for Wall Street reform, the person whose signature Washington achievement is a new agency to protect individuals and families and regular people from conniving ways that Wall Street wants to cheat us, that person is Elizabeth Warren. And Elizabeth Warren has just entered the race to run against Scott Brown for the United States Senate in Massachusetts. Joining us for her first national interview since announcing her candidacy today in Massachusetts is Elizabeth Warren. Ms. Warren, thank you very much for coming back on the show. Congratulations on your announcement.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me here.
There have been rumors swirling around for months that you were thinking about jumping into this race. What was the deciding factor for you that made you say, I need to do this?
You know, it was getting out and talking to families all around in Massachusetts. Families who said, we're in real trouble here, and we need someone who's going to talk about these issues. And so after I talked to lots and lots of families here in the Commonwealth, I decided that this was the right thing to do, and that's why I'm doing it. I'm out here to speak for middle-class families, and I'm out here to be part of the families who are going to start pushing back.
I know that you were out today on your announcement day for 12 hours today meeting people across Massachusetts. I want to quote to you one of the people who you spoke to, a 25-year-old woman, later said this to a reporter. She said, she told me that she really wanted to fight for the middle class, that they've been hammered on for a very long time, and if things didn't start to change, we'd be in big trouble. But I'm not sure if any one candidate is able to turn things around for an entire group of people, especially with the way things are in Washington right now. What's your response to that young woman who you met today? How do you overcome that hopelessness about D.C. that exists among so many people right now?
You know, I've been told a lot of times about what's not possible. I grew up in pretty tough circumstances, and I fought all my life for everything I've gotten to do.